Okay, hi there. Welcome everybody. It's my buddy again. This is day 59 of compassionate response to COVID-19. Day 59. So today we've been doing a series called Meet the Order, and what I've wanted to do is to try and kind of bring out the kind of the personalities of all various order members. And people that I know often. So today we've got Padmapani, and also Dharmamati is going to be joining us later on. So Padmapani was ordained in, when was it, 72?
75.
75, yeah, yeah. And he's been a key part of, really kind of key part of Buddhafield for like 20 years, really. And I work with him every year. Well, I'm involved with Buddhafield every year, and it's such a joy to just be there at Buddhafield with the shrines that he does and the effort that he puts into. He's an artist. Been an artist for many years. Did the mural at London Buddhist Centre in the very early days, and yeah, so there's a long history of Padmapani in the order. And but I think he's really flowered with Buddhafield and the shrines that happen. And every year he does a big painting that's maybe about how wide are the paintings?
I think kind of in feet and inches, about 8'4" by 4.5 to 5 feet.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
2.5 meters or something
yeah,
by something.
yeah, yeah. Yes. So every year, about the last 5 years, is it or something that you've done a special painting?
um, yeah, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is my fifth year of painting. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh,
Special.
fourth year of painting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Special painting, for the Buddhafield, for a puja at Buddhafield,
Mm.
So imagine how charged that is when, it's like you've got an image that's been specially done for it in is it oils you work in or acrylics or
No, acrylic. Yeah,
acrylic? Yeah,
yeah. The
yeah.
oils take too long to dry.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so over the next 2 days we're going to be hearing from Padmapani and Dharmamati about their, and Dharmamati as well was he founded Tree Ratna Buddhism, or what was then the FWO in Australia. He set up the first centre in Sydney. So he's going to be joining us in about 40 minutes or something like that. He's got something he has to do. But yeah, so we'll be hearing about both their kind of histories, and but also about Buddhafield, and I've got a little video to show of what this kind of thing that happens at Buddhafield. So that'll be later on. But we start off with a bit of body work, which we always do. So I'm just going to move over there with the iPad and do a bit of body work, and I'll come back and lead a meditation. So just imagine it, Padmapani, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Do something physical. Okay. So we always do body work in these sessions. Well, pretty much always, not actually every time, but because the idea is that if we're going to try and meditate or listen to anything, it's really good to have our body supporting us and to have energy in our body. When we sit to meditate or we sit to listen to something. So just begin by drumming with your fingers on top of your head and being aware of your clothing touching your skin. And take a few deeper breaths. So whatever you can do that's bold and energizing in this part will really benefit you later on. So it's not about going through the motions of something, but just kind of taking it seriously, what state your body's in. And it's not massively technical, this. It's just about stimulation. It's about connection. Rub your hands together. Up backs of your hands. And you can do quite a lot in a short period of time, really. And then just put your forehead into the palms of your hands and curve your neck over so that you're cradling your forehead in your palms. Bend your knees slightly and take a few deeper breaths and just enjoying just the reality of holding your head, giving your head to your hands to be held. So in this position, you don't need to be reacting to the world or giving out a message to the world or responding to the world. You can be looking inward to yourself, to how you feel at the moment. Having a rest from having to respond to the world. And it's really good to just connect with your physical experience rather than your mind, your thoughts. Just observing the rising and falling of your shoulders as you breathe, and expanding and contracting of your chest. And then just give your face a bit of a wash with your hands. Even just hold your hands over your face and just enjoy the feeling of moisture in your breath. And massaging your face. And rub your hands together. And then just put your elbow into your left hand and go over the top. So you're trying to get onto the top of your spine and your shoulder, top of your back, and try to give it quite a strong slap so that it really wakes it up. Very deliberate. However hard you do it, maybe do it twice as hard, because the tendency is for the mind to just be gingerly about the body. It needs to not be like that. And then the other side. And then on your chest. Down your sides of your body. And then down the outside of your left arm. Onto the back of your hand. Make it a little bit painful, because it'll get rid of the tension, it'll wake your hand up. And your hand has lots and lots of nerve endings, so if they can be relaxed, it really helps everything else. And then palms of your hands. And then up the inside of your arm. Then the other side. Back of your hand, make it painful. Up the inside. And then just circling on your stomach, just clockwise circles, just enjoying the feeling of and the sound of your hands brushing against your clothes. And allowing yourself to quieten down. And then just drumming lightly on your kidneys at the back. And then more heavily on your buttocks. And down your legs. Get as far as you can. And then shake everything out. So that's the stimulating part of the body work. So now we're just going to do something to smooth our energy out. So just put your hands on your stomach, bend your knees slightly. Let your breath calm down. And then when you notice that you're breathing out, just bending your knees. And then straighten your knees on the in-breath. So you're taking your whole torso down on the out-breath. And bringing it up on the in-breath. Notice if you're not moving at all, it's probably a sign that you're a little bit stuck in your head. So put your thoughts to one side if that's the case. So we're just doing a physical action here. Just bending your knees as you breathe out. And straightening your knees as you breathe in. And then on the next in-breath, just bring your hands up from your hips to your chin, turning at the chin and down to your hips again. And then bringing them up to your chin. Just imagining a ball of energy that's coming up through the centre of your body with your hands, and then going down again as your hands go down to your hips. And then next time just keep going past your chin, up into the air, out to the sides. And then again up the middle. Really opening your chest. And again, up the middle. One last slow movement down. And then just standing and just being aware of your body, how it feels now. Being aware of the contact of your feet with the ground. And being aware that in a minute you're going to move into your meditation posture, place. And you're going to do that with mindfulness, so not rushing, taking your time to set up your meditation posture. So we're going to do about 15 minutes of meditation. Do you want to lead it?
Not particularly, no.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, at least I know what I'm doing or not.
Oops. This is what it's like in Buddha food. We drop things in each other's laps.
Yeah, very true.
Okay. So, just being aware of the new position that your body's in. So what we're looking for with meditation posture is that not that we're kind of forcing ourselves into some position and sitting up straight, that sort of thing. That's just the mind being over involved in everything. So the mind needs to be not really involved in our meditation posture. So we know the body knows how to sit down. It doesn't need any help from the mind to do that. So just all you need to do is just kind of be aware of the bones of your body and the angle that your spine is making with the chair that you're sitting on. And trying to like not lean over one way or forwards or backwards or side to side. And if you can really tune into the bones of your body as the structure of your body, then the muscles of your body can just feel confident that they can let go. So this is what the Buddha meant when he said everything is dependent on conditions. So we allow our body to support us, and then our mind can just be free to engage with the meditation. And it can also feel supported by the body, by the structure of the body. And relaxation is it's like a physical thing. It's just like unfurling a fist. It's not a mental thing. So if you can just balance your body, the structure of your body, the bones of your body, then the muscles can soften and let go. So we're going to do a little bit of a body scan and then mindfulness of breathing for about 10 minutes. So beginning by being aware of the crown of your head. And the flesh on your scalp, so having a sense of the roundness of your head, and maybe that the flesh on your scalp is just lifting off a little bit from the bone, becoming looser, softer. So it's not like we have to will that into being. It's more like we just have that idea in our minds. And we inhibit ourselves from doing anything about it. We just allow everything to settle. Just allow everything to be supported by the bones of the body. Then the muscle can just soften of its own accord. Taking your attention to the muscles of your face, the roundness of your eye sockets and shape of your nose and mouth. Again, just the muscles can just naturally become softer. Once they realise that there's nothing to be done, nothing to be expressed, and that they will be supported by the bones of the body. And being aware of the the place where your tongue is connected to the back of your throat. So softening in that place. Softening along the line of the jaw. Around the ears and the back of the neck. So as you let go of tension, just imagine there's a cascade of relaxation passing down your back, taking any tension into the ground. And being aware of the natural rising and falling of your shoulders as you breathe. And having a sense that as you breathe out, you're just letting some tension go with each out breath. And you're drawing in some vitality from the world with each in-breath. And imagining that there's a sense of lift happening in your chest. So maybe imagine that somebody's got their hand on you, both on your front of your chest and on your back. They're just squeezing the hands together a little bit and just lifting slightly. Or that there's an arrow from the centre of your chest pointing forwards and upwards, diagonally upwards. It's just lifting your chest up. And that there's another movement downwards from the base of your spine. So you can imagine that your torso is lengthening without you doing anything about it. So we can use our imagination to make things happen. And checking in with how you feel at the moment. And really seeing the ups and downs of your life, the fact that you do care about your experience, that you do want happiness and you don't want to suffer. So having a sense of an aspect of yourself, kind of looking after that part of yourself. There's a watching eye that's just looking after your well-being. May you be well. So now just bringing your attention onto your breath and beginning the mindfulness of breathing, stage 1. So in the first stage, you just breathe in, breathe out naturally, and marking the end of the out breath with the count 1 in our minds. Breathe in, breathe out, count 2 until we get to 10, and then start again from 1. And whenever we get lost, we just start from 1 again. So we're just doing the first stage of the mindfulness of breathing. in the second and last stage, we're going to just move the counting to just before the breath begins. So counting 1 silently before the breath, and then breathe in, breathe out, count 2, and so on until you get to 10. And checking that you're still just allowing your body to support your mind and emotions. They don't really need to be involved with your body at all. Your body can just sit there balanced. And relaxation is just like unfurling a fist. If our muscles feel confident they'll be supported, they don't need to hold on. Supported by the structure of the body. Welcome, brother. Welcome, Dharmamati.
Here I am.
Right, yeah. So you're beaming in from New South Wales, Australia?
Australia.
Australia, mate.
Yeah, mate. She's right.
Yeah. What time is it there?
And the sun is just setting behind the hills. I can see it there.
Yeah.
It's just gone 5 o'clock
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
p.m. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 So this is the first time I've done a double act. So it's two order members. Keep having new challenges. But the reason why I've got Padmapani and Dharmamati together is that I just wanted to kind of get a sense, give people a sense of your connection, of your friendship, and the fact that you're just there all the time at Buddhafield working together on the shrines and, doing the pujas and everything. But you're also both very long-standing order members. And so we've got like a couple of days here to explore things. And sometimes like with Sthira Prabhu, it didn't. We ended up doing more stuff on the second day as well because we didn't get through everything. But so there's quite a lot in a way to get through. But we've got whatever time we want, and yeah. So I wonder if we maybe just start by just you two say a bit about your connection with each other. Do you want to just to connect you up? Do you want to one of you say something?
Who is this bloke? I've never met him before.
Well, so you can be you say. Why don't you start, Dharmamati?
Just to warm us up a bit.
It's so distant. It's so distant that it's hard to remember. But I think we first met either at one of those order meetings up at the LBC where the whole order used to meet in one room.
Yeah.
or it might have been at Padmaloka on one of the many events at Padmaloka. I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
But we really started connecting quite strongly in the 1986 Tuscany retreat. I think that's where we made a stronger connection. And then, because I was still living I was to and fro between Australia and the UK. And then I came over a few years later to do the something. I can't remember what I was over there for, but I ended up going on Buddhafield. Padmapani rescued me from the
yourself.
From myself. Anyway, so I ended up. Since then, I've been, since I didn't go to be on the meditation team then because I didn't even know Padmapani was there. To be honest, at that first one I went to. This must be over 20 years ago. And then he invited me up there, and that's what I've done since.
So did you came over to England and got ordained in England? Did you? Or what year were you ordained?
I'm English, but I've been to Australia a few times, and then I was ordained in '79, and shortly after I was ordained, only a month or so, Dipankara, the only Australian order member at that time, said, "What? I've heard you've been to Australia. Why don't you come with me on a team and set up things in Australia?" So I agreed. Unfortunately, Dipankara's not with us anymore. He died of complications from epilepsy a a couple of years ago. And so basically, I left. We created a team of it was essentially myself, Buddhadasa, and Dipankara to set things up in Australia, in Sydney, starting off in Sydney.
Yeah.
And so then on a visit over, I one of the visits back, I went to I went to Buddhafield, and that's where it started with Buddhafield.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Padmapani, you were ordained what year?
July 75.
Yeah.
With Siddhi Ratner and Sri Mala, which was the last mixed ordination.
Right.
A little cottage at the bottom of Lakenheath Air Force Base, which I think was an American plane place. And it was very noisy, these jets taking off, but I remember it strongly.
Yeah. So what do you? It's quite difficult doing a double interview.
It's
a bit like Parkinson. We got him on the
on
the settee.
Quiet. It's fine.
We got him on the settee and talk to the other one. Yeah. So all right, we'll just work it out as we go on. So what do you remember about the early days of the movement? The very early days. When did you first get involved?
Well, it's quite interesting. There's the pre aspect of meeting up with Bhante, and then moving to London in 1972. Prior to that, funnily enough, I had a very good and very quite strong friendship with Alex Kennedy, who later on became Subhuti, and I'd met Alex many years before at a service station in where he was working on the service station in Kent, not far from his parents' house. His father was a Commodore, and there was Mrs. Kennedy, who was quite a formidable lady, I remember.
Yeah.
And they had a big property, and Alex used to go and, or Subhuti used to go and work there part-time. And I remember when I used to drive down to Sittingbourne Youth Club from Chatham, where I lived, we stopped off in the motorway and we made connections with Alex, and he invited us back, and it just took off from then. But we had a candle business going, and Arya Mitra, or Jim Carroll was his name, was also temporarily living with me just outside Maidstone. And we formed this business with Jim Carroll, Alex Kennedy, and myself.
Yeah.
And anyway, we cemented quite a strong friendship. This is obviously before everybody was ordained. And Alex went off to go to I think North London Polytechnic, and he rang me up one day and said, "Look, your guru's in America," which was Dr. Mishra, because people had gurus in those days. And there's this fantastic guy called Sangarach who's just started up events down here in Archway. Why don't you come up? So I came up with, I can't remember, Graham Rice, that's Vimla Mitra, Faju Kumara, Mark Dunlop, I think Barbara Cohen, who was my partner at the time, and a few other people. But anyway, we made it up there. And I wasn't very impressed originally with Bhante when I first him, but I had a dream that night, the first night I met him, where I was actually being quite insulting to him in the dream, saying, "Who do you think you are?" I was a bit of a Mara, I suppose, in the dream. And I was very impressed in the dream that he was in his robes in the dream. He stood completely quiet and still, and I was very impressed. Anyway, I decided to stick around, and very quickly I was pulled into the orbit of Bhante.
Yeah. Yeah.
and the life around Pundarika. And I eventually, or very shortly, moved up there and brought some of the people up with me. And then everything was around Squat City around there.
Yeah.
In those days in Camden area, there were a lot of empty houses. So we moved straight into a squat. It was very, very interesting lifestyle. So we had plenty of time to set things up, which Bounty wanted to get things going. So we got Pundarika up and running. Bounty was doing a lot of the work in the early days, like cleaning the toilets, making the coffee and tea. And I think he must have thought it was all a bit stressful and that we weren't actually picking up on what he was saying. So I think he took a sabbatical, went down to go with a Banty. This is about maybe 74, 73, 74 now.
Yeah.
Whether Banty was going to stay or not. But I think people pulled around to the idea of we had to like get things on ourselves. So the key people in those days was, well, I'll just call them by their order names, Subhuti, Lokamitra and Dharmadina. And shortly after, I moved from Balmoral Street, where I lived with Dharmadina and an odd mixture of people, a very interesting bunch of people, including Chitari. I'll tell you a bit about him later on, to Lokamitra's community, where I lived with, I've just got my notes here, where I lived with Sagramati, Lokamitra, of course, Sagramati, Padmapani, Maharatna Jyoti, who's obviously died, a Buddhafield guy, and Harsha Prabha, who was doing his architecture degree, I think. And next door, I think there was Surita and quite a few women. So not that there was any connection between that in that respect. But Surita was living, and we're all living in squats. It was an amazing lifestyle we had.
Yeah.
And some of these squats are amazing. The whole area was a squat area. And it was very innovative. Some people from Leeds around that area started a bakery. It was incredible, you know, using the premises, not paying rent. Other people started a compost vegetable business, which is still modern nowadays, you know, but this was way back in 1973. I mean, it was very, very cutting edge stuff. And of course, then the centre itself was very, very innovative. And Banji gave a series of really interesting talks, one of them, which was very, very powerful, the Tantric series, really galvanized people. And in those days, because this was in Balmoral Street in Archway, it was very near Highgate Cemetery. In those days, there were necromanciers moving into the cemetery there, decimating the graves. And Jatari used to climb over the railings and these bones and things. We didn't know until, you know, Dharmadina and I one day felt this smell. We went into his room and there were all these old bones, and he was like quite strongly involved in renunciation, and it was very bizarre. I mean, there was very, very interesting times. I mean, I could go on for hours about it, but I mean, we're all broke. And we all had a lot of time on our hands to develop Dharma. We had one beat-up purple van amongst the whole movement in those days, which was stuck outside the centre. And the centre was often under siege. A lot of people don't know this. I mean, it had barbed wire outside. It had metal stuff protecting it from glass, because occasionally it'll be rained down milk bottles and people would be decimating signs of graffiti on the...
Why is that then?
Archway Centre, the Archway Centre in Balmoral Street. We were, when I was living in Lokamitra's community, I was in number 5. Before that, I was in Balmoral, Bertram Street, which is just down the road. There are a lot of serious practitioners there. In fact, a lot of the key guys in the movement who have come and gone, they all kind of were living around that area. Padmaraja was around there. And Bantu lived up in Highgate.
So Bantu's Sangharakti too. We haven't mentioned that, have we? Yeah. So
Bantu was living up in Highgate and coming down to Archway to do programs and retreats and not so much retreats. the retreats were at a place called Hazelmere, which, well, that's where it was. The actual place was called Quatermain, and they were very interesting retreats. And Banty had got this guy to come in to help him do retreats called Zenga, who later proclaimed himself to be Maitreya the Buddha. And I was there when that happened. That's another very interesting story. But, I mean, in those days, we were all pretty kind of slightly hippie-like, really. I mean, don't forget, this was post the Maharishi, the Beatles.
Yeah.
People taking LSD, smoking pot. And I think people were still doing this in the 70s.
Yeah.
I know I was.
Well, I remember this period because I went to see Maharishi at the Albert Hall in '73, and I remember visiting London and around Regent's Park, that area. There's lots of squats, and they're all in quite posh houses,
Yeah, indeed. There's a story about that as well in the Royal Park, the Queen's own houses, where these squatters moved into these royal houses of the Queen, and it wasn't contested for such a long time that when they did want to get them out, they produced a law that they couldn't get them out because they'd been there so long without being contested. And they sold the houses for about £3 million or something.
Yeah, yeah.
They had the money amongst themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, there were extraordinary times. Around that period also, I also worked at the famous Community Supplies, which is one of the big wholesale, was the first really wholesale place in London. It was run by a guy called John Law. And when he wanted to go off to India to get enlightened, as you did in those days, we took over the shop. And there was this real nutter called Irish Paul, who had a kind of, he had a machete, and he used to come round and demand the cash from the safe, a blade point to your neck, So we used to have to go up and get this cash from the thing and give it to him. But it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And we used to get all these, we used to get these posh people coming down from Hampstead to the shop, which was in Camden Town, to buy all this stuff like jaggery, which is unrefined sugar, and rice, and all this stuff. So there are all these things opening up in London. It's a very, very innovative time.
Yeah, it was all very new, wasn't it? I mean, in Manchester we had we had one Whole Food shop, and that was it. And it was it's like a hippie shop with a massive wok. And there's nothing else apart from that. That was it. We maybe take for granted all that, these days.
And there was Banty himself, and he was very, very charismatic. I mean, he really was the guru, the teacher. We were all in our 20s. I was one of the later ones. I remember when I got ordained in 75 rather, Banty said, how old are you, Padmapani? I said, 29. Why do you ask? Because you were quite friendly terms with Banty. And he said, oh, only just. I said, what do you mean, Banty? He said, well, that's rather old, Padmapani. He said, I'd like to have all the members, ordained in their very early 20s or even before. But you'll do. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very, very interesting times.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that happened.
Yeah.
And then Banty did this amazing series of lectures, not only at Pamaloka, but then these big lectures he did up in Belsize Park, like the Vimla-Kirti and the Desha, the Sutra Golden Light. But then earlier on, before that, he'll do these amazing what are they called? Dharmamati? Where you go on, it's a seminars, yeah.
Oh, seminars, yes.
We had these seminars. We had one on the Ratnaguna Samjaya Gata, which really got me going. It was really amazing. Then we had one in mining Buddhist psychology, Gunter's work on the subject of a book that's just been brought out in America.
Yeah.
And there were, Milarepa, songs of Milarepa, Rag Chompa. There are a whole series that Banty was in a very, very creative phase, and also a very experimental phase as well. I mean, for instance, he was quite into eulogizing about William Blake, and we had a series of William Blake. In fact, we even had 2 ordained order members with names given from William Blake. One was Rinter, who lived also in the Archway area, and the other one was Louver, who temporarily lived in number 5 with me, Lokamitra, Dharmamati, Padmapani, Harsha Prabha, Padmapani. I mean, there was so much going on. It was incredible. It was so creative. We were all very young, incredibly enthusiastic, and we were like fed like with nectar from Bhante, who was in a way head and shoulders above us. So it was very easy to relate to him as the teacher, and it was a wonderful time, because at that time of your life, your energy can be very dispersed. You don't quite know where you're going. And Bhante just, like, in a way, showed us the direction, the Dharma, which way to go. And you were very, very lucky to be around then. I count myself to be extremely lucky to have been around in the early days. And interestingly enough, and just as importantly, it also gives you hindsight of what came later, because obviously as more and more people got ordained, the movement became more and more structured. And as it get more and more structured, it became more and more difficult to see Bhante as on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And when Bhante moved to Padmaloka, you had to arrange to see him. And before, he was very, very accessible. As an example, I would go up, see Bhante. Bhante would open the door in Muswell Hill, and he said, "Oh, David," that's my old pre-Buddhist name. "Would you like a curry? I'm cooking." He said, "Oh yeah, sure." And then a few other people might turn up, and if Bhante felt things were a little bit awkward, he would then ask Graham, that's then City Rattler later, if you go to the pub and buy a few beers to loosen them up, or a bottle of wine. I mean, very, 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 very unorthodox, for a monk, very, very interesting. And of course, another interesting area, because I've got to cram it in, I suppose, it was during this period, this is very more personal to me, I had this wonderful experiencing along with other people, depending on your disposition, I suppose, but I was very, very attracted to the Tibetans. I was very attracted to these teachers that came along. As an example, I went with David Priya, who's obviously passed away a few years now, to Switzerland, where we went on a meditation camp with a Sufi called Pierre Violet Khan. And during that period, Lama Chimney Rinpoche was also on that retreat. And later on, we met the all-knowing, famous Kalu Rinpoche, who was the Dalai Lama's meditation teacher, or one of them. And he was amazing. And we had, shortly after in London, an empowerment from him, Vajrasattva. Also, probably the most powerful experience I had in terms of a kind of an empowerment, an abhisheka, was at the Vajra crown ceremony with the Karmapa and his retinue. And that was probably one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had in my whole life, because I was completely straight. I mean, no drugs. We did this Vajra crown, and Sogyal Rinpoche, who was a very young Lama then, introduced His Holiness, the 16th Karmapa, and all the retinue, a big retinue of monks and lamas and other people were in the audience. It was a big place. It was in the Friends Meeting House, Euston Square, right in central London. And I gave you an example of what happened. Sogyal Rinpoche said, and now we had the Vajra crown. It was made from the hairs of the Dakinis, a black crown. It's like a crown which the Karmapa held in. He went into a samadhi kind of experience and held the crown with one hand, I think I can't remember, left or right hand, above his head. And he said, for those of you who can see the hairs on this all sit in a certain way, there will be no more rebirth, or you'll be born, depending on your disposition, within 3 lifetimes you'll be fully enlightened. And the sign of the times, these guys in front of me, these 2 guys lower down, saying, "Quick, Phil, pass us the acid, man, quick." But anyway, the interesting thing was, at the end of that, His Holiness did an empowerment, and you queued up. And I got this empowerment. He had this little Avrikatesha, it was beautiful, rupa in his hand, and he plonked it on the top of your head. And when he did that with me, there was this kind of wham, this like wave went through my body. And I thought, whoa. And then I thought, what the hell happened then? Anyway, I was outside, and I can't remember, I got outside, I was kind of dazed. And I was in this crowd mingling outside. It was a warm evening, it was in the summer. And he said, no, maybe it wasn't. Anyway, I was outside, and I was talking to this, looked like an Indian prince. Apparently, he was one of the princes of Sikkim, and he'd come with His Holiness and his entourage. And I told him, listen, I've seen this guy, the Karmapa, in a meditation, completely nude in a cave, meditating. And he said, in which case you ought to come tomorrow to Camden. And he gave me a little card, wrote the address, and said, be there tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So I dutifully came up, and I realized that this place was a dojo, which was a squat, and which had been built to do Tai Chi and Chi Kung. And quite a few of the people from Archway Centre were involved in that. So His Holiness was there with his entourage, but it was really weird. I arrived late, and there was all this Tibetan chanting and stuff going inside section, inside the room. And the whole inside section was doors hinged together. It was all closed. So I couldn't get in. But the doors were really old, and they had little holes in them, like knots of wood which had fallen out. So I looked through, and His Holiness, the Karmapa, had this wrathful expression and was looking directly at me. And I recoiled, went round the other side, but there was another hole in another piece of wood in the door. So I looked through there, and he was looking at me there. I thought, what? What's going on here? Obviously, this actually happened. When that finished, there were a lot of my friends in there. And I said, hey, he was looking at me. They said, no, he wasn't. He was looking at me. He was looking at me. It was a bit like in that film Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus. And anyway, after I was so perplexed with this, I in those days you could see Banty very easily. I talked to Banty, and I said, look, Banty, look, I had this experience. And he said, well, did you know, David, that I might have been Padmapani then, because this was 74. No, I was still David. He said, did you know that the Karmapa has the ability to manifest himself as Avalokiteshvara with many heads and many faces in different directions at the same time? So I thought, okay, maybe that's what happened. Anyway, that was just a snippet from those rather magical times,
Yeah. So the thing that kind of, you were all there together, in the early 70s, and Subhuti was there. When he got ordained, when 73 or something?
I think he got ordained in the autumn of 73. I was ordained about a year and a half later.
Yeah, and
I got.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And Subhuti kind of went on to become quite sort of central in the institutions, and in a way, kind of Banty's right-hand man and all that.
Yes, that's right. What happened is shortly after the Pundarika event really got going, and Banty had done those lectures, the council wanted the property back. It got eventually demolished. And during that period, we were given a certain amount of warning. I think it was about a year, maybe 2 years, that they wanted it back. And David Prier and I formed a place called the Buttery, or were given the job at the Buttery, which was a food place in the City of London Polytechnic, which is part of the whole complex of the university. And Bounty wanted to have a chat with us, so he took us and he said, "Look, Padmapani, could you and well, it was then Alan Angel, because he wasn't ordained till 81, I think. Could you and Alan employ people to help run the Buttery, so that they have the money to then work full time to try and find this place, which eventually became Sakavati." Yeah. So there was Subhuti looking for Sakavati, and there was
That's London Buddhist Centre. Yeah.
Yeah, the London Buddhist Centre, the LBC, and then there was a whole team of people, Pundarika. Lokomitri was in charge in the Pundarika branch, along with Dharmamati, who was looking after the women's side, and Subhuti was spearheading the looking for Sakavati, which eventually he then became the person that organised it and everything, and eventually became the chairman, and still the chairman to today, I think. Not the chairman, but the president. So during that period, we had lots of people at Dharmadina, Sagamati, Marat, Jyoti, all these people, they were all working in the Buttery, Devaraja, even Pamaraj, I think, occasionally came as well. I mean, it was a very, very interesting period. It was interesting because it was a meat-selling place. They sold meat, and David Prier and I said, "Well, we're not going to have that." And we decided to go vegetarian, and they wanted to kick us out. They were outraged. But apparently, David Prier and I had a cunning plan. We thought, well, why don't we get in touch do a bit of research? So this was only one of maybe 17 canteens in the City of London University complex, which the Polytechnics in those days were part of. And we thought, well, look, we're doing the only vegetarian food in this whole complex. So we put this out into the media, and we got a massive positive response back. So much so that the people running our immediate bosses running the Polytechnic had to keep employing us and not kick us out, which they wanted to do. And we got the job. We've got paid during the holidays, so it was an amazing job. And I was there for about 3 years. The whole thing folded down when David Prier's health got very bad, and then my father died. And by then, David Prier and I were doing nearly all the main cooking on all the retreats, with Bounty, including all the big retreats and the conventions. But we had a job trying to get out of it. We had to try and train people up to take over. This is the problem when you get into an area of responsibility. You're trying to get out of it if you're trying to move on. This can be a problem. Yeah. Yeah. So altogether, very interesting. It's 72 all the way through after ordination as well.
Yeah.
And then things started getting more and more organised. You started getting 1975, I think, that very hot summer. Pamaloka was born.
76 was a hot summer.
76, yeah, 70. It was a very hot summer anyway. So Pamaloka was got, and yeah, but it was a very interesting time, and it was also a very difficult time. It was particularly difficult for the women because there was a separation going out, happening, and it really started coming about when Sakavati was got, and the Manpower Services Commission started getting going. That was the money Subhuti managed to get from the local council. Well, I can't remember his name now. That would be Tower Hamlets Council. They were running short of money the whole time to build Sakavati when they got it, and it was touch and go whether it actually got going. But he met, I think it was Paul Beasley. Paul Beasley was the councillor, and he ended up Subhuti drinking quite a bit because Paul liked his booze, I think. So he used to meet him, made some deals, and basically, cut a long story short, they got there was government starting up for unemployed people, the Manpower Service Commission, and they got this thing. They needed a certain number of people. Now, by that time, Punta Rica had collapsed. Then it was being demolished, and people were dispersing. Some of them were going to Sakati. I decided to move up to Norwich to be with a local and start a Buddha making business. And I was there. I'd only been there about a week. Up in Norwich at the old centre with a local who went on to be a very good artist, of course. And I got this knock on the door, this baleful knock on the door with Subhuti coming to get me, saying they only got one person to get before we can get this Manpower Service Commission. Can you do your duty? So I very reluctantly left that and went down to work in Sakafti, and I absolutely hated it. I hated it. Because I was working with this creative process. And then one day, because I faked it being ill, one day Banti heard word of this and he took me down to his library, his office in Sakafti where he was living at the time. He said, Padmapani, I'd like to have a mural there. Do you think you'd like to do it? And I grabbed the opportunity. I was quite inspired by William Blake, came up with this image of the wind horse. Now, I don't know if you've got an image here, but here's a picture of the wind horse here. I don't know if you can see it. That was the murals painted on the LBC, and just painted with normal paint. It faded and then got painted out about 1991 by Maestro Bandi, who still got the one to this day with modern German paint. But that started off my artistic career. I mean, I went to art college and everything a long time before that. But it really galvanized me. And after that, after Sakafti, I went to India, and that was also an amazing opening up of the heart. I went with Banti on this tour around India with Yuvraj. And then I struck off, and I went up to Nepal. I was away for 6 months, came back, and it was incredible. Then I decided, cut long story short, to go to Glasgow. I helped build the Glasgow Buddha Centre, and I designed it. And they ran out of money, but eventually I ended up painting the mural I originally went to do there. Anyway, it's enough of me. Over to someone else.
Yeah.
I don't like I mean, there's a lot of energy here.
Yeah.
Into a short period of time.
Maybe moving on to Butterfield now. So,
oh my gosh. Okay, as a jump there. Okay, that is also an incredibly interesting experience.
Yeah. So I've got a video to play of. Hang on, where are we? This is a few years. Was it last year? This. Anyway, so this is the sort of thing that happens at Butterfield. Hang on a minute.
It's Namaste Vajrayogini. Namaste Vajrayogini. Namaste Radhakini. Namaste Vajradakini. Namaste Padmapani. Namaste Padmapani. Namaste Vishvadakini. Namaste Vishvadakini. Vajradakini. Vajradakini. Radhadakini. Radhadakini. Padmadakini. Padmadakini. Vishvadakini. Vishvadakini. Namaste Vajrayogini. Namaste Vajrayogini. Namaste Vajrayogini. Namaste
Hang on a
that's
minute.
quite interesting. That actual section, which is in slow motion or something. That
It looks like only 10
a
frames
print.
a second or something. Or
Yeah, I don't
15
know why
frames
it's
a
jumping.
second.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's a retreat. That was a puja led by Dharmamati, and I was doing the warm up Dakini mantra with I think yourself, Dharmamati, Dharmabandi, Lokabandi is in there, and Phil. I
Dharmamati
think.
was there, wasn't he? Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that. I think that was quite recently. That might have been last year.
It was.
Because
Yeah.
that blue tunic I got from Nepal quite recently. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, slightly embarrassed about it because my experience of those is actually quite a strong experience. The way it comes across for me quite crude, but the actual inner experience is certainly not crude. It's very reverential towards the Darkiniest forces of inspiration. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the point I wanted to make with showing that is that it's a bit like, for me anyway, the Thursday night puja at Buddhafield, which that was a Thursday night puja, it happens every year,
Okay.
and it's a bit like, it's almost like it's the peak, it's a kind of peak experience for many people in the movement who go to Buddhafield, you know. So and there's about maybe 60 people in that puja. And
Oh, I think there was more. I think there was lot more than 60.
was there? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more.
If that was a Friday night, there would have been about 140. In fact, they're all climbing out the tent. If it's Thursday night, we did the main Dakini Puja, I think probably with the Dakini Puja, which was the new tanker I did. I'll show you that tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was Friday night. I think we did that on Friday. Thursday, I think we did a Celtic Puja. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say, oh, you know, and basically Buddhafield is like, it's more where the kind of artists go, isn't it? You know, it's more the people are a bit more alternative, and you know, I think it's a home in a way for people who are maybe a bit more creative, bit more artistic, that sort of thing. Ritualistic, you know.
I think it's something that's been developed. You know, it's been developed over time, including also the musical instruments which were included. I think personally myself, I found that working within the strict guidelines of usually a centre activity like a town centre, that the pujas were usually a little bit drawn, and in a way people were a little bit stuck with doing the format of the puja. And I think when Buddhafield came along, there was this opportunity to change things. And it's over a period of a decade or two, it developed into a mode of operation which really engaged the heart, really engaged the faith aspect, which was very, very important, I think, because the heart does need to have faith, does need to have a response to something higher for itself. Yeah? And I think the Buddhafield pujas, even though you might think they were crude or something other, you couldn't ignore the fact that people were getting off on them. You know, they were really, really engaging. And what makes it even more surprising, a lot of the people that were engaging with them weren't engaging with other aspects of the Dharma, of Buddhism as such, but they were engaging with this. So we kind of ran with it, you know, in our area. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you've really developed it, because I remember from like that meditation tent,
Yeah.
from say like 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and what you do with it every year now, it's such a creation of sort of joy, really, of like, and
Well,
care,
yeah. I mean,
putting plants
it's been
around and
expanded.
everything.
In fact, it's expanded to such a degree that well, that brings in the area of something which Dharmamati, with his help, well, genuinely his help, we helped make, which was the stupa, which we have usually outside every year, which needs to be mentioned as well. But I could say that in the last like 3 or 4 years, we've developed the meditational side to such a degree. We have our actual meditation shrine crew is split in, not split, but we have two groups. We have the meditation team and we have the shrine team, and I'm in charge of the overall area with Indra Bodhi, who looks after the meditation side, and I'm in charge of the shrine stuff, including all the gear, bringing all the stuff, all the tankers, all the stuff, organising all the carpets, the design of it. But the meditation is a very, very important aspect to such a degree. I can concentrate more on the pujas and on the design side of it, and leaving the meditation team to hone in to a lot of the interesting practices that are going on in Tiratna now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm aware that like when I got ordained in '97, it was like I think around that time, Dharmamati and Prakash had gone to live in the Vihara, like up in the mountains on their own,
Right. Yeah.
in isolation and stuff. And then they produced all these pujas or devotional texts
Yeah.
that came
Yeah.
out of their own inspiration, really.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yes.
And
The
but
Dharmamati stuff's amazing.
yeah. But like when I was ordained, it was like the Bodhisattva stuff was just in a way just for order members. But what
Yes.
Butterfield has done, it's like brought that in much more
Yes.
strongly,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and
Well, I think what we have is we have an incredibly gifted number of order members that are drawn to Butterfield, and they've all developed their own areas, like the Dharmapala, for instance. An incredible area of expertise, pulling on stuff. I'm doing the shrine tent. You've got the meditation. Then you've got various people, Buddhists and non-Buddhists, doing their own areas, like Mant in the healing area. She does a fantastic area, and people know me as Mr. Aesthetic, and I refuse to have our area broken up from the healing area, because the whole area around there is probably the highest aesthetic area. I hope people don't mind me saying this, but I think it's probably true. The shrine and the garden with the stupa in it, which Dharmamati and I built, and the healing areas functions as a wonderful area for people to go, with all these plants and a garden outside and lights, so people feel welcome to come in. There's an atmosphere outside that augments the process inside. So the whole thing feels an element of refinedness. The idea behind it, of course, the aesthetic approach, is that you need to have something of a very high caliber, if you can call that high caliber, so that when you're meditating and you come out of that, you're in a more refined state, and that reflects your surroundings. Your surroundings reflect that. And so that augments a kind of an experience of your meditation to a certain extent. You see what I mean? Everything.
Yeah.
And this is why we have the garden outside and that wonderful stupa, which we've got together, which very, very interesting.
Yeah.
There's a little story connected to that, other than the making of it itself, which was a pain in the butt, I think, for Dharmamati particularly. But maybe you can say something about that. But there was this engineer a couple of years ago, and he had a pipe in his hand. It was in the evening. He'd just come out the meditation, and he said to me, he had a kind of tweed jacket on. I mean, he looked totally out of place. He said, "How the hell did you get 18 tons of concrete in a field like this and up there?" And I said, no, it's made of polystyrene. He said, no. He said, yeah, stick your finger in it. And he did, but he couldn't feel it. I said, look, poke harder. And he felt it. Oh, my God, you're right. It's polystyrene.
Yeah. I think I've got a picture of it, actually. Shall I try and share it?
Okay. Yeah.
Hang on a minute.
Well, if not, we can show a picture tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. Hang on. No, this isn't working. Hang on.
Never mind.
Oh wait, here we are. Wait.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've got it. So it's showing on the screen there. The stupor. Yeah, so it's made out of polystyrene, and it comes into bits and is stored away. Where do you store it?
We see most of it. The heavy bits are stored on Frog Mill, with a lot of camouflage over the top and everything.
Oh,
I don't know why that is.
Don't publicise it.
And then some of it's stored in the barn. The the more precious bits, like the cone and the bits that are very easily damaged.
Yeah.
But the big water element, the earth element, are carried there.
Yeah. So Dharmamati, sorry, have you got what's do you want to say something about Butterfield and your experience of it?
I just love it. I just love being there. There's something about the energy that I find. Maybe it's just my origins of being a wanderer.
Yeah.
But I just have that sort of feeling of temporariness. Like I like things that come into being and then fade away. I often get quite claustrophobic if I'm stuck in one place for a long time.
Yeah.
Hence, I've done so much travel. But there's something about there's a beauty. It's a bit like those sand mandalas.
Yeah.
That they put all that, you put all that energy in, and then something beautiful comes about, and then it just fades away again. And I just quite like that.
Yeah.
I like experiences like that, and I also I don't mind being a backroom boy. I'm not an extrovert, so I just get on with things and do things, and it's like I feel like I'm setting a stage for people to act out something. Whatever it is, and I'm quite happy to do that.
Yeah.
That's and it's just a joy for me to be there and see. Even although I might not be engaging that much, apparently engaging, I'm actually there enjoying other people's engagement. If you understand.
Yeah.
I'm engaged, but not in such a direct way. It's more. It's hard to explain, but I just love being there and being around people enjoying themselves and that creativity that's around.
Yeah. I mean, I did that ridiculous number of meditation sessions last year.
That's right, you did.
40,
I remember that, yeah.
45 sessions in 9 days, like short ones.
That was nuts.
I know. But I did feel your supportive presence in the background. Like I thought I could always go and chat with you if I was feeling a bit of stress or something.
How I like to be.
Yeah.
I'm really there,
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we've got another session tomorrow. So should we wind up there? It's about an hour and a
Yeah.
We
half.
could. I mean, we could get. I was not today, but maybe we could show a bit of artwork or
Well,
something.
that's what I was
I've got
thinking
my
about tomorrow.
studio
Yeah,
just.
yeah,
My studio's just here, and I could show
yeah,
some
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. So the other thing is we've not really explored like the fact. Well, your experience of being Sangharakshita's secretary for a number
Oh
of
yeah,
years.
yeah.
That'd be really interesting to hear about.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it was my encouragement that got Bante to go along to Sangharakshita to go along to the Buddha Field Festival and give a talk.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So that was quite good. Yeah, he
yeah,
was. I must say, he was very impressed by Buddha Field in the sense that how well coordinated the whole thing was, and
yeah,
all the hard work that's put into it, and the teamwork,
yeah,
and to create something like that. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
I was very impressed.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a kind of hippie festival, but it's kind of to put it on, you got to
Yeah,
have a like a
it's
military
a bit more.
operation,
It's
really,
got a
don't
bit
you?
more. Yeah, it's sort of hippie festival. That's right. That's what I like about it. I've lost my hair now, but there you go. But it's still, once an old hippie, I know. But it's still, I think it has a bit more depth than it's not just a hippie festival.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think the pujas that happen in that meditation space, I think for me, make it really strongly not a hippie festival. It's like it's very
Yeah,
strongly
yeah,
dharmic,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's in a way that's what we're trying to do with all those people is give them this
Yes.
strong
Yeah.
experience of the dharma, but
mm,
put in an imaginative, aesthetic kind of
Yeah.
way, Yeah,
Well, I mean, Dharmati's pujas, they're so very different from the pujas we normally have in the movement. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Could you just before we finish, could you just say a bit about the whole thing of traditional Tibetan Buddhism and then, our form of pujas and stuff, and what the connection is and what the connection isn't. What's the in a way we're kind of doing things our own way, aren't we?
Yeah.
yeah.
We're drawing on Tibetan, but we're not Tibetan, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's like we need to have our own voice, don't we? In a
it
way.
is a complicated area, but the thing is, I think personally for me though, when Banji first came along, because it's important to say this, when Banji first came along, he was really pushing Padmasambhava. It was Padmasambhava this, Padmasambhava that. It was only later on, around 1990, that he started introducing, the T. Ratna refuge tree. From 1972 was when I came around, and even before that, it was Padmasambhava. So for all those years, all those senior order members, including myself, we were all brought up on a heady mixture of Tibetan Buddhism, along with imagery and very interesting input from people like Lama Govinda. And I was brought up in my early years on a staple diet of Tibetan Buddhism. But the interesting thing about all this is the imagery was really captivating. The stuff was, I suppose you could say, it was exotic, but also it became kind of meaningful after a while. Because don't forget, in spite of how Tiratna wants to see itself, order members are still given sadhanas, and those sadhanas have been given by Bhante from Tibetan teachers like Jamyang Khyentse, Kachi Rinpoche, Dado Rinpoche, etc., Chekov Sangye Dorje. They're all Tibetans. And on a personal level, I've been to Nepal quite a lot. This is where I connect up with Dharmamati to buy stuff for Buddhafield. And I'm very much connected up with the Tibetan culture there. So I'm very au fait with that stuff.
Mm.
But there's something even more important, that there's an area where we can talk about this another time, maybe tomorrow a bit, where once you've had a kind of breakdown of the Christian values and everything in your society, and you're not Hinduistic. In other words, or you're not born from the Hindu thing. Like, for instance, I don't want to be too controversial here. Because I'm not an Indian order member, I don't have the issues and the problems that maybe quite a lot of our brothers and sisters have in Tiratna in India, you know, with imagery, which is seen as Hindu, like the four-armed Avrikatesha. That's my practice. So I don't have an issue with that. It's the same, I don't have an issue with Padmasambhava or even Dakinis. And so I've been, and other people have been going with this for a long time. And there are many, many senior order members and very experienced meditators who probably agree with me that the Tibetan stuff's fine, you know. The imagery's fine.
Yeah. I think what I was meaning more was that Tibetan Buddhists might kind of like complain that we're not doing things their way, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we are really we're very eclectic, and we're bringing in the creative mind.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, and wherever Buddhism has gone, it's taken the cultural values with it, you know, of wherever we are. So there's an influence from Tibetan Buddhism, but there's also our Western sensibility coming.
It's got to be our voice, hasn't it, in a way? Yeah.
Yeah. It's and who knows how that's going to evolve over time. And it's you know, it's very hard to look at something that we do in the West and say that is Western Buddhism or contemporary Buddhism.
Yeah.
But I think eventually there will be a style, as it were, because you look at Japanese and you say that's definitely Japanese Buddhism, that's Tibetan Buddhism, that's Thai Buddhism, etc., etc.
Yeah.
You can tell those different cultures.
Well, I think there's definitely there's definitely evolved a Buddha field style, hasn't there? You know.
There is a different style. For instance, like I've been not people think, oh, you're very much a traditionalist, Padmapani, and this, that, and the other, but there are definite reasons why I've done that. I mean, my artwork, for instance, with the tankas, is more traditional, and the reason for that is because it's a very good starting point. Because if I just introduce my own ideas as an artist, individualistic ideas, this was then set up as a religious inspiration. That could lead to all sorts of issues and problems with people in terms of visualization, you see. Whereas actually sticking with the structures and the mathematical structures of a Buddha image, including what the stupa is very, very helpful for understanding what we're doing, which you don't really get in Western art, you see.
Yeah, so you're starting off with a framework and you're kind of keeping that to some degree and keep coming back to it, but then going off and being creative with it as well.
Yeah, and my artwork's moving on, like the new tanka, which I'm nearly finishing next month, the Pranya Paramita, and her relationship with the protectors, the Nagas. Already, people will see over the coming months and years that there is new developments happening in my artwork here, especially with water and also with paint. So it is naturally developing. It is an interesting area.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see a bit of that tomorrow. See. Dharmamati's, artwork and your artwork and maybe my artwork as well a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
why not?
So,
show and tell.
Yeah.
Anyway, very interesting area.
Yeah. So thanks both of you for a lovely session this morning, an hour and 45 minutes nearly. Yeah.
Thank you, Mahabodhi.
Yeah. And see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.
Bye, Ron.
Bye.